All right, let's talk about International Women's Day. You see it every year on March 8th, right? It feels like this very modern, mainstream thing. But what if I told you its real story is, well, it's way more radical. It was born from factory smoke, massive protest marches, and even a full-blown revolution. So let's start with the big question, the mystery at the heart of it all. Why March 8th? I mean, of all the days in the year, why that one? It's definitely not random. And the answer is tangled up in a series of really dramatic events that literally changed the world. To get to the bottom of this, we've got to go back in time. Picture it, the early 1900s. We're in these cramped, dangerous garment factories in New York. Women are working these insane 12-hour days for pennies, with zero rights and no voice in the laws that controlled their lives. It was basically a powder keg, just waiting for a spark. And then, in 1908, that spark finally ignited. This number right here, 15,000. You have to understand, for that era, this was a staggering amount of people. 15,000 women, mainly garment workers, just poured into the streets of New York City. They had simply had enough. And this was their rallying cry. They marched under this powerful, really poetic slogan, bread for all and roses too. Now, this wasn't just some catchy chant. It was a profound demand that perfectly captured everything they were fighting for. But what does it actually mean? Let's break it down, because it's brilliant. Bread, well, that's the basics, right? That's survival. It means fair wages, a wage you can actually live on and feed your family with. But they were also demanding roses, and that's the genius of it. They were saying, we don't just want to exist, we want to live. They wanted dignity, respect, and time for joy. It was a fight for economic rights and human rights all in one. So, this powerful idea, born on the streets of New York, was not going to stay there for long. The energy from that one march was about to cross the Atlantic and go global, all thanks to one incredible woman. Okay, so just 2 years later, in 1910, you have this international conference. A German activist named Clara Zetkin gets up and proposes that this day of protest should become an annual international event. And get this, over 100 women from 17 different countries were in that room, and they all agreed, unanimously. Just like that, an international movement was officially born. So let's just quickly trace this journey. It kicks off in 1908 with that huge march in New York. Then, 1910, the conference where it goes global. But look closely at that next date, 1917, in Russia. That is where we find the answer to our original question about March 8th. Right, so here's the crucial part. The date we celebrate wasn't chosen in some quiet, orderly meeting. Nope, it was forged in the fire of a revolution. A women's protest in Russia didn't just ask for change, it ignited it on a scale nobody saw coming. Think about the setting. It's 1917. World War I is raging, millions are dead, and people are starving. And in the middle of all this, Russian women take to the streets. Their slogan echoes the one from New York, but with a new, desperate twist, bread and peace. They were on strike against war and starvation, and they absolutely refused to back down. And the fallout from this was, well, it changed the world. This woman-led strike was the spark that lit the Russian Revolution. Within days, the Tsar himself was forced to give up his throne. And one of the very first things the new government did, they gave women the right to vote, a direct result of their courage on the streets. And here it is. This is the aha moment. At the time, Russia was still using an old calendar system, the Julian calendar. On their calendar, the day the strike began was Sunday, February 23rd. But for almost everyone else in the world who used the Gregorian calendar, the one we use today, that exact same day was March 8th. And that's it. That is why International Women's Day is on March 8th. So now that we know the why and the when, let's talk a little bit about the visuals, the powerful symbols that represent the day. You know, the colors of the movement aren't just for decoration. They are packed with meaning. These colors actually came from the Women's Social and Political Union over in the UK, and each one had a specific job. Purple stands for the ongoing fight for justice and dignity. Green is all about hope for a better future. And white originally represented purity, though, today it's often swapped out for yellow, symbolizing a new dawn. So how did we get from this really radical day of protest to the global day of recognition that we have today? Well, that's the final piece of the puzzle. For a long, long time, the day was mostly celebrated in socialist countries, because of its revolutionary roots. But the big turning point, the moment it really went mainstream, came in this year right here, 1975.
That was the year the United Nations officially stepped in and started celebrating International Women's Day. That's what really brought it onto the world stage. Now it's become this global moment to honor how far we've come, to celebrate incredible acts of courage, but also, and this is key, to look ahead and acknowledge just how much work is still left to do. So we end right back where we started. The whole movement was launched with this simple, beautiful demand for both survival and for dignity, for bread and for roses. And so I'll just leave you with this question to think about. In our world, right now, what does that fight for bread and roses actually look like?